Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Wednesday, hump day. Can you believe it? I mean, time is like, I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but it's just astonishing to me, astounding, I guess I should say, how quickly time just keeps passing us by. If we're not lucky, we'll be in Christmas before we know it. And to that point, I was in stores yesterday and I'm already seeing Christmas decorations. It's like, yo, we ain't even get through Halloween yet, let alone Thanksgiving. Can we get a chance to get to Christmas? I mean, I'm always here for it. I'm one that'll listen to Christmas music if I feel the urge in the summertime, if I want to hear a certain song. So I'm always down for Christmas, but energetically speaking, it's like trying to rush us into that spirit to buy for Christmas already. So anyway, hope you're having a wonderful day. I don't have anything particularly specific to express today by way of I don't have any tea. I don't have any songs. It's just me. So let's see what we got here today. Right, the Emperor card. Oh, interesting. Now I kind of slid out here like that. Should I keep it like that? That was interesting. Piece of hair. Let's see here. I may change the positions, but you saw how it kind of slipped out. See. All right, let's see what else we got. I would really love to make it to a farm. Speaking of which, sun card. I would really love to make it to a farm this season. Me and my son didn't make it to like a pumpkin patch or, an apple orchard or anything last year, but I really would like to go to one. I usually go to Johnson's Farm, which is in my area, but I have my eye on this amazing farm. It's called Adventure Farm out in like near Amish country. If you're not even from here, this doesn't even matter. I don't even know why I'm saying this. It's just so random, but that's what I would like to do, where they have like all types of, of course, the pumpkin patch, apple orchards, and different other produce and harvest that you can choose from. But they also have a lot of other activities as well, like the petting zoo and the hay ride and other, games and rides and stuff. It seems like a really good time. So, I digress majorly. We got the Emperor here, and for anyone that doesn't know, like where the Amish more or less are, they're usually on the outer skirts of Pennsylvania or up high in Pennsylvania. I think this one is like Earl, Pennsylvania or something like that, but not the city of Philadelphia, much more rural than that. But anyway, what is that, Spirit? What the hell are we talking about here? All right, so the Emperor card, the 10 of Cups. It almost looks like a farm though, like get into it. For real, get into it. Doesn't it? Like a prairie or a farm, little barn house in the background, open land, open field. And we got the sun card here with sunflowers. It's definitely, you can usually catch those like early in the fall before they start to die out when you go to the farm. And I don't know what it's like. I'm gonna tell you this. What I felt and what I heard when that card slipped out the way that it did is that the Emperor is lording over the harvest. That's what I kind of, I heard lording over. And now, that I'm getting this, I guess download or random intel about going to the farm that I just feel so compelled to share with you for whatever reason, it's kind of making a little bit of sense that this is harvest season, right? And this is definitely that happily ever after type of card where people's, wishes, whatever they may be, are in an energetic sense, in a spiritual sense, are materializing. This is the evidence of that. Or there's just some contentment with wherever you are in the spiritual, expression. I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but you're content. Basically, and you're not just content. It's not just contentment. That's more of the 9 of Cups. The 10 of Cups is that you could want for nothing or ask for anything more. And it's the expression of family here. Definitely being an expectation for continued prosperity, having found some victory and success in your sowing, that there's definitely an indication that some work has been done to sow into this ground to now on the other end be receiving a harvest or reward for your hard work. And everybody is happy for it. It's generational stability here. The kids playing in the background. It's like happy life, happy vibes, And your happily ever after could look like anything. It's anything that you've been particularly intent on manifesting, what you have been focusing on to bring to life, what you've actually been physically putting your hand to the plow to create. It could be a business, it could be a partnership, it could be a new opportunity to a new space, literally, going to a new space, as expanding your horizons as you would on an open farm in an open space, maybe going from some more confined elements of experience, even location, but certainly spiritually so, to now being more free to just move about liberally, is what I'm picking up in a spiritual sense. And for whatever reason, there's an energy here that wants to control that experience or wants to, that's what the Emperor does. He's in the highest vibration, he's a controller by way of protection, but in a more dim vibration, or maybe an overexertion of the Emperor, is to be controlling and possessive, and maybe even a little bit obsessive over that possession, whatever he deems it to be. So consider this is like the head of the state and these are the subjects, and he's like sitting on top. I just feel that, I feel like that spit out like that for a reason, that he's kind of like sitting on the rainbow to some degree, like not really wanting this harvest to bloom to the magnitude that it is projected to do so. He's trying to contain it in some way, shape, or form. Now, the Emperor could also be the expression of one singular individual that holds a lot of power and authority, perhaps in your life or over some experience of happiness, someone that's almost a gatekeeper to this expression of happiness that's, clearly on the board right now, that's projected, or that is a strong possibility in some regard. Or it could even be representation of an establishment, a conglomerate, or some establishment of power and authority, like a corporation or business, kind of, that's more so the Hierophant, more or less. But the Emperor can definitely, it can represent the empire, if you know what I mean, society. And so here you have these individuals that are living their best life in some power, perhaps even tyrant, or organizations operating in tyranny against individuals that are having a more expressive, independently expressive life. There's a conflict of interest here, as we know obviously would be the case, or is even now in real time the case. I'm seeing I'm hearing even the things that are being thrown out there, as I've said before, but I'm seeing different clips and pictures of some of the world issues that are happening now. Of course, the biggest one being the war at this time. And I'm just seeing people are just not as bothered or invested as perhaps the intention was for them to be. They're actually more focused on living the best life that they possibly can than lending themselves to the projection of fear as it's been imposed and projected. If that makes sense. It's there was an agenda here, or perhaps is an agenda here, but instead of it going the emperor almost looks a little bit annoyed sometimes to me. It could just be, and even in the highest vibration, is he has so much responsibility and accountability on his back that it's a lot of pressure. In this regard, it's a bit of an annoyance, because where people were supposed to be running around with their with their heads cut off, fighting each other, and there's some of that happening. Trust me, there definitely is. But what I'm sensing is that the vibration of those in which that is truly occurring is not really as valuable as it is when it comes from those that are operating in a higher frequency. It's how can I say this? It's it's okay. I don't know why this is coming up, but it's when you got poor, racist people, you know what I mean? And it's their views about racism and their hate toward a certain race or another people or whatever, it has weight, it definitely, and even speaks volumes, because usually they're pretty outspoken and loud and proud about their views. But in the grand scheme of things, they're poor. They don't really hold any value to the operation of society holistically. You know what I mean? It's they pretty much are contained in their own world, and their opinion of those outside of that world, although it might be annoying, and it might be off-putting, it doesn't really make that much of an impact, as opposed to having someone. Now I'm hearing it like this, but I'm gonna say it in a different way as well. But having someone who is racist that's in a high level position, perhaps a judge, or someone in law enforcement, or someone that has some great influence, maybe even in an executive in a company, or someone that can make power moves but holds those same views. That person can make more of an impact in their everyday life and an impact on others in that regard than somebody at home, barely making it, saying, white power. You know what I mean? There's someone that could be much more silent about it, but have a greater force. Which player would you really want on your team? Now, I wasn't really going there. What I was really hearing is that, you could have, it works the same, but you could have someone that is of a greater prestige, or that has a greater potential to actually make change, be distorted by racial views in a way that now it how do I say it? It shifts their ability to actually make an impact in the community that would be for a higher good, by way of kind of bringing them down to the ideas. Say for instance, you got a really affluent Black person, since we're talking about race, someone again that has powerful influence, that has that is intelligent, that has resources, and that, can make an impact. And they're inundated with racist views they're all illusionary in the grand scheme of things, right? But they are so impacted by society as a whole, that, how things are set up to be racially conflicting, more or less, that where they once would have done well and done good with their impact, regardless of color, and with their resources and things of that nature, regardless of color, they were more or less, they more or less have a heart for all people. But because of the climate in the nation, where you're projected to see that it's always black against white, or whatever the case may be, or that black people are always disenfranchised, that poison starts to seep in. And I'm not saying it's not true, but just the projection of it alone starts to seep into someone who would do good for all, and maybe start to contain them more, to be more restrictive and more even racist in their own regard, or at least more restrictive and resistant to harmony, is what I'm trying to get to. And so that impels I don't even know if impel is the word, but that's what I'm hearing, their impression or their reach to do good for all. And ultimately, no one wins, because that person is not living in their full potential of what their heart truly calls them to do, because of the projections of society pushing them back from that ideal. And those that would have been helped or impacted in a greater way miss that opportunity as well. They miss that influence. So what I'm trying to say is, it's like the energies that hold the greatest influence, and it's not, I don't feel the establishment is really targeting the lower vibes as much, because there's not as much value there anymore. Like those that are in the streets fighting against each other and willing to kill one another on either side of race. And it's not just about race, but just the mentality of hate and dissension and fear, ultimately, this obsession with survival at all costs, and that ultimately then begins to drive you to points of insanity in some regard. Once upon a time, there used to be great value in investing in that vibration and how it kind of impacts the whole. But those that, even the black man per se that I'm speaking of, or woman that I'm speaking of, that might have been more compelled to hate and harmony resistance on account of what is seen and experienced day to day, is starting to think a little bit higher above the fray. Like, okay, this is what it is. Each incident is isolated, but what can I do now to make sure that all are well, in my own right? Not meaning that he's going out being a superhero, or she is being a superhero trying to save the world in any grand scale, but not taking in as much of that toxicity that would ultimately taint his best intentions or her best intentions to have at least the mindset for harmony for all, if that is making sense. What I'm trying to say is that these lower vibrational shots that have been fired are doing more harm to the structure of the foundation of the country, which impacts more of the, it's almost impacting more of this energy here from the higher positions than it is doing to impact the masses that are ultimately the target. Because there's a great separation between those that actually are buying in and really like drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Even this right here, like some people just are not drinking the Kool-Aid as they were before to be able to truly be of value. So those that are operating on a higher level, on a higher frequency, on ascended or transcended beyond this toxicity and trauma in their own right, and are still committed to a happily ever after. This is peace and harmony and all that within their own confines, if nothing else. But we know that that's definitely impactful beyond that experience when you're willing and able to cultivate it yourself. So they couldn't bring that vibration down as they intended to do. People are still vibing high, and so that there lies the imbalance. But instead, it's actually causing more of a potency, like it's strengthening the lower vibrations, which has more of an effect, and it's more of an assault and a threat to the powers that be that are infusing this energy in the first place than it is on the ones that were really targeted, kind of in the center, the core of it all. I hope this makes sense what I'm saying. That means that if you're the one vibing high, you're less susceptible to these targets of trauma for the sake of insight and fear than what was intended, you know, and you were the target, because if they can take down that core frequency, you know, that the substance of spiritual affluence, to put it, you know, I guess I don't even know if that's practical or not, but I hope you feel what I'm saying. Like the substance of this evolution, this ascension, this expansion, and the evolving of the human spirit, if you can taint the fuel force of it, which are those that are able to see beyond the veil, that are able to perceive something that may not even necessarily be seen, or to see deeper into a situation than what's being projected, see the truth of all things, more or less, and definitely at least as it pertains to them individually. If you can tank that force fuel, then then all is lost, pretty much. All is lost. But if you taint some oil that's already tainted, i.e. somebody that's not even willing to perceive anything greater than his own fears, that would project, you know, these lower vibrational energies of racism, regardless of the, you know, just like blanketed racism, not speaking of injustices that have been exemplified or there's evidence of as isolated situations, just somebody that just hate all certain people just because, you know, that's what he's always been taught to do. That fuel is like damaged anyway. That doesn't do anything for the country, doesn't do anything for society, does nothing for humanity. It doesn't even do anything for the mechanics of which it came from, you know. So it's just like, it's dud. It's like dirty oil in a car, you know. It's not going to really contribute to the well functioning of the mechanics of that car as much as clean, purified oil does. When you get your oil changed and all systems are a go because you put in some new oil, fresh oil, and I hear a whole nother anointing on that by way of talking about fresh oil, that is ultimately going to almost give the car new life. Okay, thank you, Spirit. Woo, this is a struggle. So there are energies here present in the earth that are ultimately, because of their elevated perspective, giving the realm new life, that are helping us to break away from these old systems of control and possession and aggression and fear and disconnection and disharmony and dissension. You know, all those things that have been ultimately cancers in our society, where this is like a regeneration, for literally a regeneration, where those that have learned how to cultivate, and that's where the sun is here. Okay, now, okay, in the farm. Okay, thank you, Spirit. Got it. Thank you for hanging in here with me, because I know it's been rough. But for those that ultimately are able to answer to a higher calling just within their own right, again, what you create in your waking life makes a much greater impact than you could ever imagine, because that's one less person, that's one less partnership, that's one less perhaps even legacy, dynasty, when as your children are impacted by your perspective and your perception of life. That's one less family unit that is going to continue to recreate and regenerate the toxicity of old, that would ultimately keep it going, you know, that, and then their kids would, and then their kids would. So it's like this new oil that's being infused in the land, and the powers that be have been doing everything they can possibly think of, you know, especially all the old tactics. They, you know, even the war, now cosmically speaking, is the dissension with the cosmos implied that war would be imminent, or at least the projection of such. But the way it's being amplified, I believe personally, physically and projectively, is not what has been heavenly divined. It's interference that's happening now to either show us something worse than what truly is, or to make matters worse than they truly need to be, primarily on account of this you know, this insistence and again, obsession with possession of spiritual control, of people moving on and growing and elevating and ascending and transcending and, you know, building their own happy life and happy circumstances, disconnected, or at least without dependency on any other outside forces externally, or let alone any superior, so-called superior authoritative forces. You know, it's the slipping away of control over the masses is what ultimately is fueling the greatest dissension globally. Now, I can't even just say nationally. Certainly we see it day to day in our country, but it's a global situation at this point. So it has not really panned out to be like they thought they were going to. They're desiring to cut the ascension and the evolution of this new oil, this new life, this, you know, people being happy with who they are and how they are and what they have and what they do, dimming that light to be able to filter that premium energy, you know, that fuel back into the system that ultimately needs it to survive. You know, it's clear that energies in their own independence can survive and thrive all on their own, and it's because it's been made clear to the powers that be that it's possible, but it's becoming even more clear again because of the chances that people are taking personally to do so, and then becoming an impact of evidence for others to be encouraged to do the same. So that in itself is kind of spreading like wildfire, you know, in a good way, as opposed to the cancerous energy that has always been, you know, has always been effective in a dark way up until now. And so this is people rejecting that Kool-Aid, and this is the energy of, you know, and this is also what I'm hearing now. This is also the establishment rejecting this new spiritual way of life, you know. And when I'm saying spiritual, it's not so much about, it's not at all actually about religion. It's about satisfaction, you know, that supreme satisfaction, I would say, because this is like the Ace of Cups being handed to this individual, and he's got his arms crossed, like it's the emperor. He's got his arms crossed because he don't want to change. He's still looking at these 3 cups that he used to be able to control, and the 3 of Cups is like 3 ladies toasting and, you know, to the good life, kind of blissfully ignorant in some regard, and in this vibration that I'm speaking of, you know, that he's been able to kind of control the party, you know, to control the flow of happiness, of celebration, to be able to dictate, literally a dictator who gets to have what and when you can be happy and for what and for why and for how long, you know, keeping a strong and stringent limitation on the quality of life ultimately, you know. So this is him still looking at those 3 of Cups like, no, I'm not trying to hear this. I want to still be in control, but things are evolving, and from the top down, from the bottom up, from, you know, as above so below, from the inside out, everything is changing now. And if you're not willing to go with that flow, he, whomever the emperor represents, is the one that's going to miss the opportunity here for life and a new expression and a new experience. And you have the Nine of Swords here, which is exactly that, being afraid of now what's on the horizon, anxious, eager, somewhat mentally imbalanced in the present tense as to how he's going to fare in this new harvest of harmony. Oh, okay, I like that, spirit. Hence why and that's why the farm. Okay, I get it. This harvest of harmony. Well, look, even in this card, there are sunflowers, as I spoke of. There's a kid, there's a child. Like I was saying, that new generations are now going to be privy to this more expansive ideal of life. So they will have. It's like, with each generation, more of the past gets lost unless it's passed down, and for the good or for the bad. Unfortunately, in some ways, there are things that have been lost to us that need to be passed down to generations, but there are some things that absolutely needed to be done generations ago, So the generations now living in this light of the sun are the legacies of those that are living a more vibrant life experience, that don't feel oppressed by the powers that be, don't feel possessed by those powers, that are living in their own sovereign state of satisfaction, sensually and spiritually so. And that energy gets passed down so that the kids that they procreate don't know any differently. And then their kids won't know any differently. And soon it will just be the natural way of life to be a sovereign spirit in the earth realm. That the practices of that reality will just be, like commonplace, as opposed to like now where the practices of racism, even since I spoke on that earlier, have been passed down to generation to generation, even in subconscious ways, as a Black woman who is definitely pro-harmony and liberty in every way, shape, and form. There are certain psychological impressions that have been made upon me just by way of my surroundings and the circumstance of life that I've experienced, that even though I don't have a mindset to be discriminative in any way, or to create dissension between myself or any other race, because I have friends of all, or have had friends of all types of races, truly, real, true friends. But there's still an impression based on the trauma and toxicity that has been experienced, or even just passed down by way of, storytelling. You know what I mean? It's like certain experiences that have happened beyond our existence make an impression because the tales get told to us and they leave a mark, and it puts you in the spirit to be cautious, or always kind of have your guard up, or not trust certain individuals, or trust yourself in certain places and spaces, to always just kind of be to be defensive, I will say, at best. Same works for the other side, that some are taught to be more offensive for the same, ultimately with that same undertone of fear. Fear on the more offensive side of what life would look like. Maybe somebody was hurt, or a victim of some brutality by way of another race. And so that trauma got passed down, and it taught them to be afraid of all Black people or all Spanish people or whatever. And maybe perhaps the same has happened on the other side. So it's taught you to always be careful when when you're around all white people, or be careful to, make sure you know how it go. you know how it go. I don't even want to evoke that energy because for me, that's dead within my legacy. You know, I treat my son to treat everyone as an individual and to respect all and to expect respect in return, even as a 7-year-old boy, that he is to be respected and honored and appreciated no matter what the race, age, gender, that too, you know, that gender and all that, you know, some of the taboos that I was taught even religiously to resist or to judge in some regards. I don't pass that energy down to him. I pass the energy to him that no man is to be judged by his choices by you or by me. You receive everyone based solely on the experience that you have personally, and make a decision on how you get to proceed, protect, or project yourself accordingly. So even just that in a practical sense, me giving that example in real time, that's me creating a new harvest of harmony in my son that I wasn't privy to. I didn't necessarily have that harvest. Now, I didn't come from a bigoted family per se, but there were some traumas that were expressed that you couldn't help but take into account when, you know, say perhaps I went from going to an inner city school where it was predominantly Black and Spanish to a high school that was predominantly white. There was a shift in ideals that got to happen. Thankfully, I'm a mutable sign, so it wasn't a very hard transition for me, but there were certain ideals that I got to dispel or to, you know, fortify in some regard based on my experiences there. But it was all on an individual basis, not as a collective whole or some, you know, holistically discriminative thought process, you know, which like I said, could have been my come from if I allowed it to be. So it's all this to say that the new world order that is being that is trying to be influenced in a more lower vibrational regard is being upstaged and perhaps even I don't even know what to call it. Like it's being uprooted in a sense, to the point where those that are operating on that lower frequency are going to cancel each other out, is what I believe is ultimately going to happen. And that will continue that wheat from the chaff separation, where if you're not willing to adhere to the higher frequency and flow of universal order, you ultimately will be left to your own devices, and you will miss opportunities, and you will be shut out of a more bright and brilliant experience of life as it's expressed here with the Sun card, you know, and the Queen of Cups. So I said all that on 6 cards. Let me just get a few more because I don't even know what's the Queen of Cups about. Oh, and look at that. There's that celebration that I was talking about. Right. And right here, Spirit, you better come through. Right here. This is the disturbance in the powers that be, the spirit of the powers that be, because again, that's not even just one man or one group. Like, it's not just the government or Republicans, that's too many, or Democrats. It's like it has no ownership, really. It's a spirit that needs to be fed, you know. And if you can starve it out, it can continue to be fed in that lower energy. But what's been found is that they used to be able to feed it with lower vibrational, like low-hanging fruit, so to speak. That energy itself has evolved to the point where even that low-hanging fruit doesn't really satisfy that lower energy as much as it used to before. It doesn't really, the exchange is not reciprocal, so it doesn't do the trick. You know what I mean? It doesn't have the same, it doesn't yield the same harvest as it once did. So it's like they knew that they had to start feeding it some more premium produce, but the premium produce is too ripe. You know what I mean? It's like, it's you can't pick that off the vine and feed that to the beast as you were able to do before. It ain't going. It's like reserved. Is literally like what do you call it? It's too organic. You know what I mean? Even the beast itself can't consume it the way that it would like to. It being premium and organic and succulent and all that good stuff. It causes a disturbance in the beast's digestive tract, because divinely so, it's not to be, it's that harvest is reserved for more everlasting productivity here. It's already on reserve for to ultimately feed the masses, to literally nourish the world, the globe, in a different type of way. So that beast can't even eat that if he tried. He has to throw it up almost as soon as he ingests it. That's crazy. That's interesting to hear it that way. All right, let me just get like 3 more. So that's the 3 of Cups there. Party's over for the powers that be in some regard. Because like I said, like people can still, that's still a lie, I'm not taking that. But that was the Lover's card, choosing your higher self, but it was quite a few behind it, and I've been talking enough, so I'm trying to shorten my readings these days. Yeah, and I can take that because that's 2. Perfect. Yeah, and this is like, like you're either going to, and here's the 9 of Cups. What did I say? Like it being satisfaction, This is what the energy wants to lord over, but this is what ultimately is protected from the grassroots, from the root here being down below. It's like there's too much distance now between those old world tactics and how this energy has evolved, having first become the host of their own party, knowing that really just enjoying life, enjoying themselves, and the vitality that they bring to the party itself. This, in a sense, could be the overindulgence of the Emperor trying to collect too many energies. And, I always see this in a lower vibration of it being like collecting trophies, hoarding these accolades, accomplishments, and possessions, like trinkets, more or less. Like, but people being, as you see the connection here, these 3 of Cups are a representation of spirits that are being hoarded as in some showcase of sorts for the purposes of, gratifying the prowess of the Emperor or the establishment, the empire as it is. But this also represents those that are independently satisfied and sensationalized in their own accomplishments. He don't need no throne. He's situated quite proudly and purely on his own in this regard. Sometimes it can be overindulgence, as I said, but in this regard, it's definitely speaking to what I almost said here, which is that spiritual satisfaction. This is like spiritual sensationalism, like nothing left to be desired. You're completely fulfilled. This is like you've done a certain work on yourself and, made certain accomplishments personally that make you feel completely content with where you are. Like the thing that has been fueling these forces, by way of possession, oppression, and obsession, is that incitement to always feel you need more, never feeling happy and content with who you are, what you have, what you do, what's possible for you. There's always been this void, that literally with the 4 of Cups here, the feeling like there wasn't enough, that spirit of scarcity within the mind, body, and spirit that made you always feel like you had to go above and beyond to fill it. But usually the incitement, the exchange, the offering to fill those voids was with things that are not altogether nourishing and definitely not satisfying in the long term. It's fleeting, you know what I mean? It's fallacy. It's it's false. It's just like I said, it's like the Kool-Aid, and it's a bitter. Ain't nothing worse than the wrong flavor than not enough sugar. If you know what I'm saying? Like, you may have your favorite flavor, but if you don't put enough sugar in that thing, it might as well be poisoned, for real. But that's the energy there, that you drink this bitter cup, unsweetened cup of Kool-Aid, and you're thirsty for more all the time, because it's not the Kool-Aid that's been divine to you. It's not the pitcher or the batch that you would make. It's not your favorite. It's not the right amount of sugar that you would use, and you may mix a couple packets at the same time. You may add some fruit, some oranges, some lemon, or whatever if you're nasty. It's not your own special brew, is what I'm saying. They tried so hard to keep us all ultimately, like, these 3 cups are all the same, desire in the same cycle of cups, as if that was all that was available to us, when all the while Spirit has been offering us our own special cup, and begging us to just take a sip. You're going to like it. I promise you, you're going to love it. Just take a sip, and that's what the obstruction has been, for us not to take our own special sip of Kool-Aid that would ultimately energize us and to regenerate the population, as it was probably always divine to be so, if not for this interference. So here it is, and even here with the Ace of Pentacles, it's like the material expression of what I'm saying in that special cup. This is you coming from a spiritual nature, being nourished and being ordained, anointed in the Spirit, to now materialize in every way that same special essence. This is the highest pentacle that and notice it's the only pentacle that's come out so far. It's been cups, mainly cups, a lot of spirit energy here. And the only swords is here in this dissension of perhaps the Emperor, pretty much agonizing over his decisions at this point, or his failures in that regard. But the Ace of Pentacles is the greatest gift that can possibly be given by way of the divine. And it's been exchanged on account of this very thing here. This is like representation of being in grace and gratitude with your expression, your personal expression, not looking to be validated or affirmed by anything outside of you, not looking to societal standards to validate your measure of value, but being content with what's been given to you and divine to you as is. And then Spirit meets you in that place with the material manifestation for that sowing, the material harvest for that sowing, a divine opportunity that comes, on account of who you express yourself to be. Perfect job, the perfect business opportunity, or just material harvest, by way of the businesses that you started, or the creative expression that you make because you're unapologetic and fearless to do so. You don't need anyone to come and tell you, oh yes, you're a star, or yes, you can do this on my platform, or yes, I'll support, I'll invest in your company, or in your craft, or whatever. I'll, buy, I don't know, because I'm trying to get back to the land thing, like any of that. You don't need anybody else to sow into your field, into your garden, any more than you're willing to do so for yourself. And that's what people are awakening to, that you have every tool, every seed, all the nurturing, because it comes from above, so all the water you can possibly harvest, and pure water, not the tainted stuff, not the mucky stuff. You have good water, good nurturing, and it's already been ordained to you, like the land is already yours. It's just a matter of your willingness to work it, and the land being your own spiritual expression, if that makes sense. Now, it could be physical land, because there's a lot of that too. I've been seeing some stuff going around about claims for land that, again, oh, and this is good. This makes sense too in a very practical sense. I have not done the research to know for sure, like, what of it is true, what's a hoax, or what, you know what I mean? Like, because so much stuff is, but there's a lot coming up these days, especially in social media, about there being certain laws and decrees and treaties for certain individuals that have claimed to land that's either been stolen from them or hidden in legal jargon or rhetoric, or usually outright stolen by authorities and systems that have the influence and the power and authority to do so from those that are less suspecting. They thought that would ultimately damper the evolution of said peoples from being any more than what they've been projected to be or given permission to be. But unbeknownst to them, lo and behold, people have evolved where they may have not been able to thrive in the physical land that was due to them. They've been able to cultivate in the spiritual land, in their own personal energetic fields, that they've still grown and ascended and expanded and transcended in a way that's more sustainable, quite honestly, than the material aspect of an estate. If you feel me, like the spiritual estate has grown tremendously of certain peoples beyond what land was supposed to have grown with them. There should have been a match. So definitely there's going to be a return. Whatever it is, as this is the season for all things to come to light. It could be inheritances. It could be, certainly a lot of plots and estates and such have been ultimately just stolen outright from legacies and generations, especially through, and maybe that's why I was speaking about racism, through that spirit, of just being able to just incite fear and just take over wherever it was admissible to do so, particularly in the South, but definitely not limited to it, all over this nation for sure, perhaps all over the globe in some regard. And now there's coming a reclaiming of that land, especially for those that have been diligent to reclaim their spirit. It's come that way first before it could be this material gift. So maybe perhaps some people are actually about to come into some windfalls. I know that that's true. There's some great windfalls of abundance with the Ace of Pentacles. It could be by way of property, could be generational inheritances released or discovered that have been that have ultimately been stolen or been buried away in some documents, or things like that are definitely happening in a practical sense. But this is even more so speaking to the spiritual affluence of people that have been surrendered and dedicated to the divine, and not religiously now, that have been dedicated to peace and harmony and the good of all for all. And it doesn't mean that, it means you love your enemy in the sense that you inflict no harm against them intentionally. It doesn't mean that, you got to go have dinner with them per se. You know what I mean? It just means that you just cultivate your own space and time and your own creativity, that's good enough, that you don't have to go lead a challenge or charge against your enemy, because your enemy ultimately will take care of itself by way of the karmic cycle that always comes back around, and it never misses. It never misses. It may be delayed, but it certainly is never going to miss an appointment, for sure. Or I should say a destination, more or less. So so there's that. Maybe that's why I was speaking about farms, and that spirit always knows. Maybe it's a call. I mean, it could be a call for you to do some investigation into, documents, or into your past life or generational documentation, or I don't even know. I'm hearing litigation, and perhaps it's just a matter of it coming to you because it's divine to do so, and it will find you, and all you need to be is just content with where you are and open and willing and available to receive the harvest as it's ultimately trying to, present itself to you before you even have to go cultivate it, So there's that. And I guess I'm saying that because that's the other thing. These, I experienced it in real time when you see these new messages about people saying, that they were supposed to give us back our land in 2022. And, it can almost send a frenzy into, that's what it is, which makes sense with what I said earlier about trying to really inflict this spirit of fear and anxiety and angst within higher vibrational peoples that do have a special impact on this earth, trying to make you feel like you missing something or you missed an opportunity, and incite you to some impulsive action to reclaim something that's been lost, when everything that's been lost will ultimately be, look at this is the spirit of God bringing everything that's divine to you. So be mindful even of propaganda by people that even look like us and don't mean no harm, you know what I mean, that may look, I'll say, look like you and don't mean no harm, specifically talking about Black people in that regard, because it may be coming in different ways for other races. But I can speak to the Black experience, obviously. I mean, come on. But be careful of that propaganda where, others are just trying to spread the good word, the good news. But it does kind of come off a little bit. It does kind of incite a bit of an agitation, because it almost makes you feel, especially if you're particularly one that's in need of a break right now, that you're like, well, where's mine? Where is it? Where do I go get it? Where do I sign? Who do I need to call or kill to get what's owed to me? And you don't have to do any of that. You don't. It's still, if it's had your name on it all this time, pardon me, in the spirit, it cannot be erased in truth. For sure. And especially if you've done all that you can to cultivate your spiritual grounds, making it primed and ready for that harvest to come forth. As I said, the spiritual essence must be made manifest in a material form. That's just the law of the land. That's just what it is. And no earthly bound individuals or establishments can really stop that. They've been able to delay it for a long time. And even in their best efforts to delay the spirit of the evolution of the spirit, which is, it's been successful for a long time, but even their best efforts are falling short at this time, because it's just divinely ordered for all things to be made balanced and made fair. And so if you are on the upright of that exchange, everything that is divine and destined to you is already so. Just believe it to be, and don't be anxious about a thing. Oh, my God. The 10 of, this is it. Not just the ace, but the whole shebang. Everything coming to you, coming your way. Now that like I said, going from the 10 of cups in the spirit, this is perhaps ancestors, that cultivated the land, that planted seeds, that paved the way, made sacrifices, took a lot on the chin just for us to be here in this time, at such a time as this, to receive the material reward for their hard work. And it's already done. It's not the powers that be don't have claim to that. Their name is not on it. No matter how many documents were forged, no matter how many signatures were, falsified, no matter how many legal loopholes and hula hoops they created to lay claim and stake claim to something that didn't belong to them, ultimately it must be released because the spirit says so. And when the spirit calls judgment, there's no court in the land that could. Oh my God. Like, what? I mean, Well, that's that on that, you know? I don't have anything more to say. When the spirit calls judgment, that's an irreversible justice to be determined and to be, wow, to be disseminated accordingly. It's settled. It's already settled. It's already justified. Judgment, the decision has already been made. Just go ahead and, I don't know, get ready to cultivate your farm, or yeah, I don't know what you're doing. Me personally, I kind of always have wanted a farm. You know, I definitely at least have to have a garden. You know, I mean, in this day and age, everybody better be growing something with the way things are going at this time. Of course, it's going to shift again. The sun will shine again. I'm almost positive of it. But, you know, go ahead and in your mind, start tilling the soil, start planting the seeds. Something tells me you've already done so, but if you want to actually start seeing yourself physically in the midst of that harvest, you know, as an actualization, a visualization of yourself and that happily ever after wish fulfillment. It may not be a farm, it may just be a big old house, maybe a beautiful condo, maybe somewhere off the grid where nobody can find you. It may be a deluxe apartment in the sky, whatever it is, okay? See yourself there in real time already. And as you see, so shall it be. Done. I don't have no more to say. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, peace.